And now is the time we take to get still and spend a little time looking within in our meditation. So sit comfortably, put whatever you have out of your hands. Just get into a centered position, what feels good for you, what feels strong, centered, and relaxed. And as you sit in your position, breathe in and release. Breathe in and release. And as you breathe and continue breathing in and releasing, with every breath, you feel the relaxation moving throughout your body. Feel a wave of relaxation moving from the crown of your head, like a wave down throughout your body, as all the muscles relax and tension is released. And you become focused on the here and now. And as we go within, we want to listen to the still small voice within. Which reveals our divine nature, our divine self, and our oneness in the divine. Everyone and everything lives in this divine nature. Imagine yourself being a drop of water in the ocean. You are a drop of water in the ocean. Yet, where does your drop begin and where does your drop end? Are you a drop or are you the ocean? Centered in our divine nature, there is no distinction. I am the ocean, just as I am the drop. There are no limits. There's only the limitations I put on myself to realize and express this ultimate nature and oneness with all that is in the universe. And now I take a moment in the silence to meditate on this realization of oneness in the divine. And as I realize and feel my divine nature of oneness, of wholeness, I'm not just a drop, I am the ocean. I am all, I am in all. When I'm in the divine. And I realize the oneness, the wholeness, and the truth, which expresses in and through me in everything I do. And for this truth, I am grateful. Thank you. Friends. I never know which friends are going to participate. But thank you, that was great. And it's, where's the divine? Okay. Divine order in terms of the flow of all this too is Unity Village did not get the message of what we were doing today, but the daily word is right on it. So the Christ awareness transforms my life experience, and we're talking about it says in here, belief in lack of limitation dissolves as I accept my Christ nature. So we're talking about our divine nature today. As was mentioned, the book series, we're starting with How to Pray Without Talking to God. And this is by Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. So this is a book, we just sold the last copy that was in stock in the bookstore, but she's ordering more, so there'll be more here by Wednesday so that people can get copies for your group discussions. So you'll hear more about that a little bit later. But for the next 6 weeks, we're going to be talking about this on Sundays, so then you can go on and also talk about it in the study groups and sign up in the foyer if you're interested in that. Okay, so there we go. So the first chapter, I have the privilege of introducing this, and the first chapter, I'm also going to be doing the last chapter, so I'll be bookending it for you. But the first chapter is kind of a setting the frame chapter, or what I'd call a mindset chapter, and that's knowing your divine identity, or our divine identity. Okay. And this is a journey, okay? Knowing our divine identity and our divine nature is a journey, and we evolve in our understanding and beliefs around that. And everyone in this room probably has some different beliefs, has some different backgrounds, has some different ideas of things about what is the divine, what is God, what is spirit, and that's all good. And different things trigger different aspects in us too. Different words, different songs, different images of just what God is, who we are, and how we relate together. Are we separate? Are we one? So that's what we're going to talk about today. In the book, Reverend Linda starts with talking about how, about a super God. Oops. There we go. All right, superhuman God. So she said at some point she was just frustrated with how people were talking to God, like a superhuman person in the sky, in the clouds, and was pulling all the strings. And as it says here, you know, it's separate. God was separate. When you see God that way, God is separate from us and has all this judgment, is able to judge us, right? To send us to heaven or hell or purgatory and all those kinds of things. That's part of this model. And God is all-knowing, knows everything we're thinking, everything we're doing, everything everyone is doing everywhere, right? So this all-knowing person in the sky and is all-powerful too. So has all the power to make us happy or sad or, bring into our life all kinds of things, right? So we've probably heard, well, that was God's will. Well, okay, well, that's one way of looking at it. It's something I always struggled with, because if it's God's will, then what about free will? And it's like, do I have free will? Or is it all set up by God? Or that was part of what never made sense to me in that whole concept. I was always, even as a kid, trying to figure that out. I could do anything I wanted because it was all God's will, or did I have to do something? It was just, didn't make a lot of sense to me. Okay, and then the bodyguard, which is the protection and the comfort, and I still kind of language some things and get some aspects about the comforter part, and that's okay. It's all okay. Whatever we believe is okay, because it's all part of the journey. Yet most of us in Unity kind of have shifted our concept of this superhuman God to something else. Now, the superhuman God is also kind of like the superhuman Santa Claus concept. So it's very much the same kind of a thing. And most of us, looking around, I think most of us at our age have evolved our concept of Santa Claus, right? From when we were 3 years old or 5 years old or something like that, right? And we all survived that, and we're all okay, right? For the most part. Okay. But it's a very similar concept, because like all-knowing and all-powerful, the song, it says, Santa knows whether you're bad or good, so be good for goodness sakes, right? Santa knows all. Santa has all the power. Yet our concept evolved, and it was okay at the time. I mean, I enjoyed Santa Claus and hearing the bells and hearing the reindeer and all that kind of stuff, so whatever works, right? But I got to another level of understanding with Santa Claus, just like we have another level of understanding about God, Spirit, and our divine nature. Another key concept that Reverend Linda talks about in this first chapter too is there we go, is original sin or blessing. And that there actually is, in some theological writings, the concept of a sin gene. So that we are basically born into sin because of this sin gene, which is interesting. And then that's where baptism helps cleanse that away, and then we do all the things throughout the traditions to try and overcome the sin gene that we're born with to be a better person. Interestingly enough, that most of that concept is a Christian concept. It's really not something that you see in Eastern religions or in Native religions, and even in Judaism, it's not the case where there's seen as the sin. And she remarks to that in the book. Where is it? Yeah, interestingly, Judaism rejects the notion of original sin, believing that the image of God in which humans have been created means humans can think, reason, and choose. Having a dual nature and free will, humans sometimes choose good and sometimes choose evil. Okay, so it's not a predestined evil gene that we have, yet that is a concept that many of us that were brought up in traditional Christian traditions learned about. But we don't carry that in Unity. We believe in original blessing, that we aren't with some sin gene and some bad thing that we have to spend our whole life overcoming and following all the rules that some church has set up to make us follow, and then we'll be okay. And then we get to go to heaven, right? Right? So for us, heaven is here now, or hell is here now, right? It's not some place to go to someday. It is right now. So we've let go of the sin gene concept and the original sin concept in unity. Let's go. Hello. Oh. Freak out. Freak out. It's okay. So, how are we doing, Arjun? Yeah. So now we have some different principles. And one of the things is the principle versus the personification, the superhuman concept. In unity, we believe things like divine nature is not in all, it is all. So it's not separate. The nature of divinity, the nature of God, of spirit is us. It is all. It's not something that comes in and out of all, it is all. And the principle applies equally and totally. So if we believe in this, it's not a hit or miss, or depending on how we act, this will happen. Like there's a God up there looking at what we're doing and then deciding how things will be, how we'll live. Okay, it's not that. The principle applies all the time. So what we think, what we feel, what we express, how we behave, it all has impact all the time on bringing us oneness or separation. Okay? So it's continuous. And one of the ways I've talked about this before is if you think about gravity as a law, as a principle. Okay, gravity that we all experience here. Does it come and go? What would happen if all of a sudden it was like, I think we're going to take 10 minutes off of gravity? Woo! That would be quite an experience, right? I don't know what would happen, but it would be interesting. God, principle, divine nature doesn't take time off like that. It is all the time. Manifestation follows principle, which is in our unity principles number 3, the law of mind action. So what we manifest is based on our consciousness, both as individuals, as collective group consciousness, whether it's a group like this, or whether it's the human race, or beyond. Our consciousness in the universe is really what causes things to manifest the way they manifest. And principle, spirit, God is not a super person. It's not like a human super person that knows everything and then pulls all the strings, but it is all. It is in all. So in the meditation, I was talking about the ocean and being a drop. And as a drop, am I the ocean or am I a drop? Am I all when I'm in that or not? And in unity, we do teach that principle, spirit, God is all. It's not just in all, it is all. Everything in the universe is expression of spirit. It is all. And I know that's a hard thing to kind of get our heads around at times, because guess what that means? We are spirit. We are divine nature. We are not separate. We are that. Okay. So one of the ways she talks about this in the book is she talks about an eagle egg. So you see an egg there. And if you think about the eagle inside the egg, all right? The eagle inside the egg, which is the yolk and the other stuff that's inside the egg, cannot imagine itself flying like the eagle in the sky. It doesn't see itself that way at that point in time. Okay? Yet, that is its divine nature. Okay? It has its shell, which for us as human beings, oftentimes is what we call our personality, okay? And our ego and our individual consciousness. It's the mask. And that's a quote here from Fillmore. We are all in our personality wearing the mask that conceals the real spiritual I am, the truth of who we are. So we all have that ability, and we are all in that nature of the flying eagle. So this egg turns into that manifestation. Now, does it have to think about it? Does it have to choose it? No, it just has to be, and it becomes. And that's what we're doing. As our spiritual evolution continues,